Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Janae. In my last video, we sat together and we spoke about Tisha B'Av, the saddest day on the Jewish calendar, the tears of our people, and what it means to feel the pain of exile. But today I need to open my heart to you even wider. Right now, it mirrors my actual reality. I'm close to 2 years into the conversion process and my life has become absolutely difficult. It feels like every day the struggles are compounding. Things are getting worse, not better. When you go through a major spiritual shift, the eternal work is tough enough, but the heaviest burden comes from the people you love the most. Recently, I turned to a very close family member for a moment of comfort who identifies themselves as a Messianic Christian. And they said to me, why does life have to be so difficult? Why are you making it difficult? And all this is happening because you are rejecting the Messiah. According to her worldview, my hardships that I'm facing right now are a direct consequence of turning away from Christianity, a divine punishment, a sign of rejection. Today I want to make this video to claim clearly and biblically that this is absolutely not true. It is not a proof of God's rejection. And to understand why my family sees my struggles as punishment, we have to look at the texts that they are reading. In the New Testament, suffering is heavily romanticized, only if you are suffering for the sake of their faith. For instance, if we look at Matthew chapter 10, verse 37 to 38, it says, "He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me." In Luke chapter 14, verse 26, it takes a step further, stating that a disciple must hate their family by comparison to follow Jesus. When someone is inside Christianity and faces family friction, hardship, they apply all these verses and they tell themselves that I am suffering because the world rejects my faith and this is my cross that I have to bear. But notice what happens the moment you leave that framework. Logic flips. Suddenly, your family looks at your hardships not as a holy cross, but through the lens of verses like Hebrews chapter 12 verse 6, which says, "The Lord disciplines the one he loves, and he chastens everyone he accepts as his son." Because they believe I'm wandering away, they interpret my life struggles as God harshly disciplining me to force me back. They use a double standard. Suffer, it's a test of faith. If I suffer, it's a punishment for sin. But this idea relies on the premise that God uses an easy, comfortable life as a spiritual report card. Let's look at the Hebrew Bible to see why that is completely false. Gosh, the greatest figures chosen by the Creator faced unmatched lifelong adversity. Let's look at the greatest, Jacob, Yaakov. He was specifically chosen, loved by God, and he was given the name Israel, which literally means, so beautiful, to wrestle with God and prevail. If choosing God's path means smooth life, then Jacob should have been king from day one. Instead, he had to flee from home. He had absolutely nothing. He spent 14 years working just to marry the woman he absolutely loved because his father-in-law deceived him. And then he worked another 6 years building his flocks. And that's 20 years trapped in a cycle of deception, emotional exhaustion, and hard labor. He lost his beloved wife, Rachel, in childbirth, and he spent decades trapped in profound grief, believing that his son Joseph was dead. Jacob's life was a masterclass of ongoing struggle, yet God was with him every step of the way. Look at our matriarchs, Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel. In ancient Near Eastern culture, being unable to bear children was the ultimate social stigma and a source of profound emotional agony. All three of these holy women endured decades of heartbreaking barrenness. Rachel's pain was so intense she cried out to Jacob, "Give me children or else I'll die." Their delay was not a punishment. The struggle was the very training ground that forged their spiritual strength, them to build an unshakable, independent relationship with the Creator. And look at King David, Before he ever wore the crown, he lived like a fugitive. He spent years running for his life from King Saul, hiding in dark caves, isolated, exhausted, with absolutely nothing. But it was through those exact struggles that we have the book of Psalms. While crying to God in desperation, feeling overwhelmed by his circumstances, it poured his raw pain, tears, and fear into poetry. If David had lived an easy, comfortable life, the world will never have received the profound prayers of comfort that millions of people still use today to find hope in their darkest hours. David was called a man after God's own heart, yet his life was defined by friction. When I stepped into Judaism, I learned a completely different way to process hardship. The sages of the Talmud understood exactly how isolating and painful the conversion process can be, and they built a beautiful framework. First, in Tractate Yevamot 47a, the Talmud explicitly lays out the conversion process. It states that before a person is accepted, the Jewish court must openly warn them. Do you know that Israel in the present time is persecuted and oppressed, despised, harassed, and that afflictions come upon them? Judaism does not promise health, wealth, and an easy path if you just believe. It warns you up front. The truth means sharing the historical struggles of the Jewish people. My difficulties are not a sign that I am on the wrong path. They are proof that I'm living the authentic Jewish experience. The sages introduced the concept in Tractate Berakhot 5a, which is known as the Afflictions of Love. The Talmud explains a soul is often pressed by life's struggles to bring out its greatest spiritual potential. God doesn't crush people he rejects. He challenges the people he deeply loves. And yes, I don't enjoy this moment. I wish it would end soon. But I am grateful. I'm grateful that every situation that I'm in is just for a season. My struggles and your struggles are not an angry light bolt from heaven. They are cosmic friction required to build our souls. And as I climb out of my past to build my Jewish future, just as we learned in Tisha B'Av that destruction is never always the final chapter, it's always followed by rebuilding. So to answer my relative's question, no, I'm not making my life difficult because I rejected their Messiah. Life is difficult for me right now because I am earning my name. I'm experiencing the birth pangs of a soul being reborn into the house of Israel. Just like Jacob, I'm wrestling in the dark night, and I'm not letting go until the dawn breaks and I receive my blessing. Documenting this entire journey online and sharing my vulnerability and studying to build a Jewish home has definitely not been easy. If my content has brought you comfort, and if you'd like to support me as I stand strong on this path, please consider supporting my channel. Click on the link below, my coffee link, where you could buy me a coffee or contribute directly to my journey. The link is right down in the description box below. And it helps keep this channel going. Thank you so much for walking with me, and press the subscribe button and drop a comment on how to handle family friction. And I'll see you in the next video. Okay, bye-bye.